In 1900, a farmer ploughing a field needed 6 horses, a whip, and an entire day. Today, one person in an air-conditioned cab can plough the same field before lunch, without even touching the wheel. This is the story of the tractor, the machine that replaced the horse and rebuilt the modern world's food supply. The tractor's story doesn't start with an engine, it starts with steam. In the early 19th century, portable steam engines were used on farms to power stationary equipment like threshing machines, transmitting power through belts or drive chains. They weren't tractors yet. They couldn't move themselves, so teams of horses had to drag them from field to field, which meant a farmer needed almost as much animal power just to move the machine as to run it. That changed when British farmer Thomas Aveling grew frustrated with hauling these heavy engines around. He built a self-moving steam engine and went into business with Richard Thomas Porter to manufacture them under the name Aveling and Porter. For the first time, a machine could power itself across a field, the first true ancestor of the tractor, and arguably the start of what historians call the first agricultural revolution, the shift from purely human and horse labor toward mechanization. Soon, engineers even experimented with placing steam traction engines on opposite ends of a field to pull a wire-drawn plow back and forth between them, an early, clumsy attempt at automating cultivation itself. Steam engines were powerful, but they were also heavy, dangerous, slow to fire up, and prone to boiler explosions. The real breakthrough came with the internal combustion engine. In 1892, American inventor John Froelich built what's widely credited as the first gasoline-powered tractor, mounting a single-cylinder engine onto a chassis that could move under its own power and drive machinery. His original company would eventually become part of John Deere. Just over a decade later, in 1906, the Hart Power Company coined the very word tractor to describe these machines, replacing the older, clunkier term gasoline traction engine. For the next 2 decades, tractors stayed a luxury few farmers could afford. Early models were massive, expensive, and built more like locomotives than farm equipment. That changed with Henry Ford. In 1917, Ford introduced the Fordson, a mass-produced, affordable, lightweight tractor that used the same assembly line philosophy that had made the Model T a household name. The effect was staggering. In 1916, roughly 20,000 tractors were sold in the entire United States. By 1935, less than 20 years later, that number had passed 1 million. Around the same time, International Harvester's 1924 Farmall introduced the row crop design, with narrow front wheels and high ground. Clearance built specifically to straddle and cultivate. Row crops like corn and cotton. A shape so effective it's still recognizable in tractors today. The 1920s and 30s brought 2 more quiet revolutions. In 1931, Caterpillar's Diesel 60 began the slow shift from gasoline and kerosene engines toward diesel, more fuel efficient, more torques heavy, and far more durable under sustained heavy load. A year later, in 1932, Alice Chalmers' Model U became the first tractor to roll on pneumatic rubber tires instead of steel lugs, instantly making tractors faster on roads, smoother to operate, and far less damaging to soil and pavement alike. But arguably, the single biggest leap in tractor history wasn't the engine, the fuel, or the tires. It was how implements attached to the machine. In 1926, Irish engineer Harry Ferguson patented the 3-point hitch, a system using 3 connecting arms to link ploughs and other implements directly to the tractor as a single rigid unit, rather than towing them loosely behind on a simple drawbar. Ferguson's system could lift, lower, and automatically control the working depth of an implement using hydraulics, all controlled by the driver from the seat without ever climbing down. In 1939, under a now famous handshake agreement with Henry Ford, the system reached mass production on the Ford Ferguson 9N. Within 2 decades, nearly every tractor manufacturer in the world had adopted some version of Ferguson's design. It remains the global standard today on everything from a backyard compact tractor to a 300 horsepower row crop machine. By the mid-1950s, tractors officially outnumbered horses on American farms for the first time, a quiet but seismic milestone that marked the true end of animal-powered agriculture across the industrialized world. What had taken millennia to build, humanity's partnership with draft animals, was replaced in barely 2 generations. The second half of the 20th century brought enclosed, air-conditioned cabs, radios, far more horsepower, and increasingly complex hydraulics, but the next true revolution was invisible. When the US government opened GPS to full civilian use in the 1990s, companies like John Deere, Trimble, and Ag Leader raced to bring sub-meter accurate auto-steering to row crop tractors. Suddenly, a tractor could drive a perfectly straight line across a field on its own, reducing overlap between passes, saving fuel and seed, and dramatically cutting down driver fatigue during long planting and harvest seasons. Today, that same trajectory is heading toward full autonomy. Companies are now building tractors with no cab at all, machines guided entirely by GPS, cameras and AI, monitored remotely by a single operator managing multiple driverless machines across several fields at once. What started as a horse-drawn plow scratching the surface of the soil has become a satellite-guided robot capable of planting, spraying and harvesting with almost no human hands on the wheel. From a self-moving steam engine to a driverless, satellite-guided machine, the tractor's 200-year story is really the story of agriculture itself. Doing more, with less human effort, every single generation. Next episode, we look at the machine the tractor made possible at scale, the combine harvester. Subscribe to follow the full series. And tell me in the comments, which tractor brand or model do you want a deep dive on?